Okay, everybody. Well, today we're going to be talking with a very dear, dear, dear friend of mine, Erin Bradley. She is located in uh, two markets, actually. She's in Denver, Colorado, and in Winter Park, Colorado. Erin's going to be sharing today a few things that she does that are really, really been key in growing her business and in gaining relationships and better business partners, and how to attract real estate agents and how to actually help them in their business. So tell us a little bit, Erin, about what you're going to be talking about today, just a little overview on what you found your partners need.
Sure. I recently had a lot of success teaching a simple one-page business plan to real estate agents in a workshop format that kind of forces them to carve out some time to work on their business. And the results and the response were pretty awesome. And it's a process that I've been using since the end of 2014. So this was my third year using this process for my own business planning. And I taught a class on it successfully at the end of 2016. So as I was going into the end of 2017, I decided to kind of open it up and expand it and teach it in both markets and multiple group settings. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about, the sizes of the groups, how we got them together and all that kind of stuff. And also just the process that we use and how we present it to the agent in a way that is easy for them and enjoyable and gets them fired up to refer us all their business and crush it in 2018.
So what's the difference between your little one-page business plan and the standard business plan that most people try and accomplish or fill out or do during the year, and they don't quite end up measuring up?
Well, this is kind of how I start the class out is first and foremost, for the other lenders that are listening, you would want to do this process yourself, right? And arrive at your own personal one-page business plan that you're going to use as the framework for the class. So I put this up, and this is how I introduced the beginning of the class. And I let them know that, we came here today to work on our business plans and work together to hold each other accountable and achieve our goals in 2018 and make it the best year ever. What you may not have known is that what we're going to end up with today is a one-page business plan. And this may be different from what you've seen in the past, but personally, I didn't do any business plan for the first 5 or 6 years I was in the mortgage business, and had results that matched my lack of planning. My bank account also matched it. But as I was going into 2014, I was part of an accountability group and a mastermind group, and we were encouraged to come together at the end of the year and bring business plans. Well, since I had never done one before, I kind of winged it and showed up with a 10-page business plan, as did the other guys in this accountability group. They all had, 10, 15-page plans about how many buy sides, how many sell sides, what their marketing plan looked like, what their event calendar was. I mean, every detail you could think of was in there for the following 12 months. And a year later, none of us had accomplished any of what we set out to do. So I had read a book that had this idea of a simple business plan, a one-page business plan. I don't even remember the book, but I tried it out going into 2015 and got together with the same group of 3 realtors and showed up with my kindergarten color-coded business plan. And they were all laughing at me because, they know I'm not a great planner. But I ended up more than doubling my business from 14 to 15, going from 18 million in volume to 39 million, hiring people, taking vacations, having weekly massage, all kinds of stuff, and achieving all my life goals in 2015. And so I've been married to this one-page plan ever since, because you can print it out, you can shrink it, you can make it a bookmark, you can put it on your desk, tape it to the top of your laptop, put it inside your planner, whatever. I mean, you can put it everywhere on your mirror, and you can read it every single day. It's very simple, and it keeps you focused on the fundamentals.
Awesome. So before we get into the actual plan itself and how you teach the class, let's talk a little bit about logistics for it. So who do you invite? How many people do you have in the class? Where do you hold the classes? Things like that. So first of all, let's talk about Who do you invite? Are you inviting anybody and everyone who's a real estate agent? Are you inviting people who are already referral partners of yours? Are you inviting brokers and groups or companies? How did you come together with who you were inviting?
Okay, so I'll tell you how I did it, and then I'll tell you how you can do it, because there's way more that I could have done, and maybe I will do next year. But first, I started with a company that I have previously taught classes for in previous years. So I did a business planning class for them the previous year. I've done sales classes for them. So I already have that relationship with their managing broker and that reputation for coming into their office in Denver and teaching their agents. So that was step one. I just reached out to her. I would recommend reaching out to the managing brokers of different offices. It's tricky because I've got a couple top referral partners that are in a company that has an MSA with another lender. So I can't ever get in there and teach, which is a bummer. So with what I did with them was also in Denver, I reached out to just our general list of warm referral partners. So some that we do a deal here and there, some that are our whales, whatever. And just did a group email, CC everybody saying, let's get together, carve out some time and work on our business plan. If you haven't done it already, or even if you already have, we think that you'll find value getting together in a workshop format and spending a few hours getting reflective on 2017 and mapping out 2018, making it the best year ever. And what ended up happening was that those folks that are in the company with the MSA, where I can't get in there and teach to their whole office, many agents from that group, from that office, did come to my class, or some of the whales that we work with, so to speak, sent their buyer's agents. And that was really good in helping us solidify those relationships with the buyer's agents, because I built a relationship with those whales, so to speak, by doing accountability, business planning, and masterminding in the past. Well, now they have buyer's agents, and I need to earn their trust and referrals as well, because they're the ones that are client facing. In Winter Park, I just put it out to all of the agents that I know. So whether they refer to me or they don't refer to me, I sent it out to everyone I knew, or at least they knew of me, essentially, and ended up with 12 or 13 agents that were from a slew of different companies. And then for those that couldn't make it to that random group in Denver and the random group in Winter Park, then we reached out and we set up smaller groups. So I did present to a group of 2 people in a coffee shop, and we worked through this, and then did that in Denver with some small groups. So in the future, you could do it in a title company, and you could have the title company market it for you. I found that we had great results from just reaching out directly to our warm leads and our, top referral partners, and even people that aren't referring us. And when I did it in the company, a lot of people, we had a survey at the end where they could provide their contact information and let me know if they wanted me to reach out. And 18 out of 23 people said that, yes, they wanted me to reach out to set a coffee. So we can talk about the follow-up after, but, in terms of setting it up, we did it very organically, let's put it that way. But I'm sure with all the DSP managers out there and all the great minds that are out there that are smarter than me, you probably could do it in a much more, big capacity or impactful or whatever. I don't think it matters whether there's 23 agents or 2 or 50, to be honest, because the energy in the rooms were different depending on the size, but we had more collaboration with the 23 agents that worked for the same company than we did for the 12 agents in Winter Park that worked for different companies. They were all kind of quiet. But then when I had 6 agents together that were Denver agents in Denver, it was pretty intimate and it was super collaborative. And when it was myself and 2 agents in a coffee shop, that was even more collaborative. That was like a mastermind session. It was awesome. So it's really, the response was phenomenal from all the agents, regardless of the size of the class or the forum.
And where did you hold it? Did you have it at a restaurant? Did you have it in a title agent's? Did you have it in a conference room? Where did you, especially for the big one, you must have held it at the company itself?
Yeah, so for the big one with the 23 agents, we did it in their office where they do a monthly sales meeting, and this time we did the business planning. And then the one that we did with 6 agents, we did around a conference room table in a title company in Denver With 2 agents, we did it in a coffee shop. And then with the 12 or 13 agents in Winter Park, we did it in kind of like, it's a conference room, but it's at the rec center. It's very informal.
Okay.
You do want to have a TV or some kind of projector so you can put, I left my business plan on the screen. I didn't put the questions that I'm going to show you guys on the screen. I gave those out as handouts. And I did that for a reason, because I wanted them to absorb my goal of 240 units and 30 referral partners, like by osmosis.
Yes.
I wanted them to be a part of my, I wanted them to be like on the board, the Team Bradley train.
Oh my goodness. What a great idea. That was great. Great. Well, let's just jump right in. So I think you said a couple times you tried to do the entire class at one time, but you learned from that mistake and now you send some questions out in advance. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So basically, the only tool you need for the class is this 3-page kind of, whatever you want to call it, workbook or something, right? And the first couple of times I did the class, I handed this 3-page thing out in the beginning of class. And then I had them work on the 24 questions, and it's a pretty reflective exercise. And especially if you are doing it in a format where there are competing agents or whatever, sometimes that the energy can be a little weird at the beginning of the class, just because they're like in the room with their competitors, and may feel a little weird getting into the headspace you need to get really reflective and pensive. So it's also the most time consuming part. So it dragged out a little bit. It was just a lot. It was a lot of silence. I did play some music in the background, but I learned from that. So, and I also got feedback from someone who recommended that next time you send those 24 questions in advance. So the next couple of times, that's what I did. I separated these pages and I sent just page 1. And I said, in anticipation of our class next week, our workshop, I call it a workshop, not a class, because it really is more of a workshop. So in anticipation of our workshop next week, I want you guys to do a little bit of homework. Please grab a journal or a pad of paper and do some free writing, answering the questions attached here. Feel free to read them all at once and then, first answer the ones that jump out at you, but definitely take some time to really reflect on 2017 and answer all of the questions there. This is going to be the framework we're going to work from as we work through the business plan on next Thursday or something like that. And then reach out on, if you send it on a Thursday and you reach out on a Monday and say, hey, just wanted to check in and remind you guys to get the homework done. I've attached the questions here again for you. It's really going to make the experience more impactful and give you a better shot of achieving your goals in 2018 if you come prepared for this workshop, and just kind of put it out there.
And is everything through email, or are you calling to remind? Are you texting to remind? What are you doing for the reminders part of this?
Mostly email. Mostly email. Although, like when my DST manager does her Monday calls, she would say, hey, just a reminder, I'm so excited. We're excited to see you on Thursday. Or, hey, we haven't heard back from you about Thursday. There's still time. Do you want to join us? And if people were like, I really want to go, but I'm out of town, then we would offer up a smaller session. So a little bit of both, but mostly just email and phone.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, the response was strong enough that we didn't feel like we were knocking down doors to get people to come to it. People were like excited to come, because the way we invited them was to say, in our industry, it's really hard for us to carve out time to work on our business. And we found that getting together in this workshop format forces us to disconnect from transactions and the phone and emails and really map out a plan for next year. And without that, we're going to have a much smaller chance of achieving our goals. So take your business seriously, make yourself a priority and get there. And we just it's very friendly, more friendly than professional. I mean, more friendly than professional, if that makes sense. More like, hey guys, if you're like me, it's hard to carve out the time to get my business plan done. Every year I say I'm going to get it done, and next thing I know, it's January 15th and I haven't gotten it done. So, I found that if I put something on my calendar and I make it a meeting and I get it done, you know, I'm grateful that I've done it and my results have been far better since, or something like that. And so even if you don't show up, I'm going to be there working on my business plan, and I hope to see you there. You know, take your business seriously. So anyway, I send out the questions. Then, or do you have a question, or do you want me to keep going?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So everybody did show up with the homework done when I did it that way. So then I get to when I get to the place, I start out by setting up my computer and projecting this simple business plan. And I basically start with an introduction of myself. You know, I know you guys, most of you know me, but I'm Erin Bradley with Fairway Mortgage. I got into the business in X year, you know, and for me it was 2006. And I didn't do my first business plan until the end of 2013. So for 7 years, I just winged it and hustled and hoped that my business would grow organically without a plan. And for those of you who have read my book, you know how that turned out. My bank account suffered and it wasn't very successful, let's put it that way. And so I just say that in 2013, I joined a mastermind group. And as part of that mastermind group, they had us bring our business plans. And I had never done one before. And all these guys show up with these 15-page plans. So I felt like that's what I needed to do. And so I did that. And then I never looked at it again. And so 2014 was it was a fine year. But going into 2015, I had read a book that recommended a one-page business plan. And I thought, this is right up my alley, because I am not someone who plans ahead. I am definitely more spontaneous. By nature, I don't really plan a month ahead. So coming up with a business plan has always been challenging for me to believe that I can control my results or my future. So I thought, this is right up my alley. And so, you know, the little accountability group that I was still in got together. We brought our business plans, and these guys, they started laughing at me because they knew I couldn't plan from October to November. So they were laughing at my kindergarten, you know, color-coded business plan. But anyway, that was the year, 2015, that I hit all my goals, like every single one, personal and professional, vacations, you know, date nights with my husband, number of transactions, hiring people, all kinds of stuff. It was a phenomenal year, and our volume more than doubled. So it was a really pivotal year in general. And I can't blame it on the one-page business plan, but I know it helps, because it was the first year that I took that plan and I plastered it everywhere, and I looked at the goals. And it's not just the goals, it's the schedule. It's what you're committing to as a routine, knowing that, you know, where you are and where you want to be is going to require some level of change. Some actions have to be different. You know, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So I'm spieling here because this is what I do at the beginning of the class. This is how I speak to the agents. I'm like, you know, if you are trying to get from where you want to be to where you want to go, we're going to work through what has to happen on a daily basis, a weekly basis, monthly basis, et cetera. So I want you to know that this is the end result here. Is my hope is that, you know, maybe not in this format, but some way, shape, or form, you're going to leave here with a crystal clear plan. And it's also important to note that everyone's at a different place in their lives. So if you're hungry for business and you're feeling strapped for cash, then, you know, a lot of your goals might be geared towards your production and proactivity and transactions and deals and whatnot. But if you're someone who's just come off your best year ever and you burn out and your relationships are compromised or your health was compromised or something was suffering, then you might be looking for balance. You might be looking for more time with your spouse and kids or more vacation time or whatever that may be. So just know that this is not just a business plan. It's not all about money. It's about our lives being the best version of life that we could ever imagine. And so whatever that looks like for you, there's no real rules for this or rhyme or reason. And that's why we did those 24 questions. And so then I kind of go into the 24 questions and I say, you know, did any of you guys get your homework done? And everybody's like, yes, I did. And then I say, awesome. I mean, you know, any feedback on that? What did you guys think about that process of journaling? And, you know, a lot of people chime in that they thought it was awesome. And I was like, you know, what I really love about that process is that while you do highlight the things that you would do differently about last, you know, if you were to do it over again, what would you do differently? And what were some of your challenges? But for the most part, what I find comes out for me on paper is just how much I have to be grateful for. So no matter how I feel going into this process, like, oh man, I didn't hit my goals this year, or, oh man, I crushed it financially, but I'm exhausted and I feel like I didn't see my family at all, or whatever the case may be. I'm like down on myself. I'm focused on what didn't work as I plan for next year. But when you work through those 24 questions, I find that I come out on the end thinking, wow, look at all these new relationships I developed, and look at all these new friends I made, and look at all these people I have to thank, and all these things I had to be grateful for. And when you're in that state of gratitude, as you work through your plan, you're more inclined to manifest more of that goodness as you grow. So I really enjoyed that about the process. And we just kind of have a little dialogue about why we did that. And I'm like, the other benefit of that journaling exercise, and the reason I had you do it before you came in here today, is that it does require some level of reflection and concentration, and being pensive on the year. But what's cool is that what comes out on paper, for me, organically, I start to see my values, or I see what my challenges are. I see what my focus needs to be, or what I need to work better on. It just kind of comes out organically. So we're going to build from that as we work towards your top 10 goals, and then ultimately your top 3 banner goals. So I hand out the rest of the paperwork and go into
do you have
page
them
2.
share any answers to any of those questions, or you just kind of like talk about the gratitude and what comes out of it, and their information is kind of kept private to themselves?
Yeah, we don't do sharing about that piece.
Okay.
We do sharing as we proceed, because as we proceed, it becomes much more, not superficial, but, well, it's powerful to the person who's sharing it, but it's not necessarily as personal, I feel like. And besides, there's definitely a warm-up phase to the class energy. I mean, in some cases, if it's just you and 2 people, you don't have that issue. But, if you're doing it through a title company, for example, you've got 15 agents in the room from different companies, they're not all walking in the room like ready to collaborate. They come in kind of like, all right, I've been to this class before. What's this lender going to spiel? And then ask me for a business. I don't know. There's an energetic thing to it. So I think that we don't start with like, anybody want to share? We just kind of we start with the next thing, which is the 3 words.
Okay.
And then I ask them to share their 3 words. But I preface it by sharing a lot about myself as we go. So when I talk about the 3 words, I basically present it. I just say, hey, the next part of the process is going to be the 3 words for 2018. And I say, some people might find this a little bit foo-foo or cheesy or whatever, but I have found this to be really powerful in my own experience, that every year, what I need to focus on changes. And so, there have been years in the past where I had a poor money mindset, and it was hard for me to receive abundance. And so I might have had these words like receive and abundance, or as I grew my team, it was hard for me to let go. So sometimes it was let go or delegate or ask for help, and sometimes I was burnt out or overwhelmed, and I just needed to breathe and find balance. Or as I grow as this management role I'm in now, I need to be inspiring my team, to understand our mission. And so you're kind of you're almost like organically promoting your value and your team's value, and like also being very, what's the word? Not transparent, but vulnerable. Like a lot of the feedback I got from the real estate agents was that they could really identify with the presentation and the way that this class was taught. And they said that it was better than any other business planning class they'd ever been to. And some of them had said that this was their 3rd business planning class for 2018, and it was far better than any they'd ever been to. So a lot of them talked about like just that, not vulnerability, but the it being relational. And there's a word that starts with an A. Anyway, I'm having a brain fart. But anyway, so then I talk about my 3 words. So I was like, so this year my 3 words are growth, because we have a team now in place that has potential or has capacity for 240 units, which seems like a silly number maybe to some people, but that's what my team can handle. So we're really focused on growth. I want to be the healthiest I've ever been in my life because in the past I've compromised exercising, eating right for the business. And I want to be more in balance. And ultimately I want to have fun because the more fun we're having, the more magnetic we are to attract more business, more referrals, more business partners, et cetera. So you're kind of like, does that make sense? Like you're kind of plugging things that are important to you as a lender.
Like a commercial for you, but it's so heartfelt that it doesn't feel like a commercial.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So you're like organically promoting yourself, your values, what's important to you. And what happens is that these agents feel very connected to you because they're not being talked at. They're being like, you're pulling on their heartstrings. It's just like being at the Freedom Club, really. You know, like somebody gives a presentation at the Freedom Club and you're like, oh my God, that is me. Like you're crying. You're like, that's me. That's how the realtors are. And I mean, I think that we as lenders, we forget that the realtors suffer from all the same worries, stresses, overwhelm, burnout, hungry, broke, in debt, successful, you know, resentful, all those things. Everything that we deal with as lenders and that we find camaraderie in the Freedom Club, these agents have the same issues, yet they don't always find that camaraderie. And so they can find that in you. And that's a unique thing for a lender to do, is to connect with them at this like deepest level and realize that they're not alone. And that's so different than, how do I get your business? I'm the best at closing loans. You just completely like flip them on their heels and they're in love with you. It's just awesome. So anyway. So
you have them share that with each other?
I give them a few minutes. I play some music. I'm like, you guys, I'll give you like, 3 or 4 minutes to come up with your 3 words. And I'm like, I recommend you read through what you journaled on the 24 questions. And you may find that certain words jump off the page for you. So read back through your notes. I'll give you 5 minutes. And I just kind of watch to see when they put their pens down and pick up their phones and that kind of thing. And then I'm like, is anybody willing to share their words? And sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. I would say most times somebody will. And then you're like, anybody else? And that's awesome. And that kind of is a bit of an icebreaker. And then we go to vision and I say, okay, you've all, I'm sure, heard the power of affirmations. And so in this portion, we're going to spend a little bit more time, probably 10 to 15 minutes, where I want you to think about 1 year from now, what would make this, what's happened where you've said this is the best year ever. And you want to write statements in the present, like I am, I have, I will. And here's some questions to guide you, what kind of clients, and I kind of read through these things. And then I say, but again, remember, this doesn't have to be just about business. So it might be that you've lost 20 pounds. It might be that you went on 6 weeks of vacation, whatever that may be for you. And then I read mine from my journal, which I don't have here, but I pick up my journal and I say, a year from now, I've closed 240 units. I spend time with 30 amazing realtor referral partners who are kind, driven, and successful, and who feel appreciated. I have a team that feels loved and appreciated. I spend tons of time with my kids. I skied 80 days, like whatever. I write all this stuff out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no limit to this, guys. I'm like, you just ramble. This is like a brain dump. So don't limit yourself. And by the way, and I say this, by the way, I'm like, forget what's realistic. Dream big. Put big, huge, hairy, audacious goals, because there's a saying that you can't exceed your own expectations. So if you expect only what you think you would settle for, you won't do any better than that. So you might as well double it, And then I'm like, the worst case is that you fall short of the big, hairy, audacious goal, the best, or something like that, Best case, you hit those goals. So the worst case is settling and never achieving your full potential. So then I give them time to do that. And then I ask again, like, would anybody be willing to share? And again, when I do my I have, I will, I am, whatever, I'm again expressing my desire and intention for referral partners, closings, collaboration, all that other stuff. So lots of plugging how amazing you are. And then we start talking about goals. I'm like, all right, so this is the fun part. This is where we are going to read through all of the notes you've already written, and then read through some of these thought-provoking examples for your goals in life, business, financial, physical, etc. And feel free to add additional categories, spiritual and, I don't know if there's anything else I missed here, but this is just some thought starters for you to kind of think about this. And I don't want you to limit this. Don't worry about getting to your top 10 goals right now. Just take another 15 minutes and write as many goals as you have. And then I'd say another quote that I love is, don't worry about how long it's going to take to accomplish your goals, because the time's going to pass anyway. So put all your life goals down. It doesn't matter if it's going to happen in 2018 or not. The sooner you start focusing on those goals, the sooner you're going to start moving in the direction of achieving them. And then I give them, I think I then go back to my 10 goals. And I say, like, I'll read through my goals here because they're not all business related. It's a combination of personal and professional. So I'm like, we want to do 240 units, which again, that might seem like a lot, but that's what our team has capacity for. I got this phone system a year ago and I never really set it up. So that's just an admin thing I need to get done. We have our 10th wedding anniversary coming up. So I want to get a vacation planned. I want to pay off this home equity line of credit we have. Bi-weekly massage, weekly date with my husband, finalize a trust for the kids. I want to take my team to Mexico, which is going to happen if we hit our goals. I want to love and appreciate 30 referral partners. So I just read through it and give them some kind of idea to think about, that it could be a combination of personal and professional. And then I give them time to work on it. And then I don't ask them to share yet. I then say, all right, now you're going to go back through all the goals that you've written, your vision, everything. And I want you to really be honest with yourself. What are the top 10 goals that you want to achieve in 2018? And then they go through, and that doesn't take too long. They come out with their top 10. And then I'm like, from those top 10, what it would make your year absolutely amazing? What are the top 3 most important goals? And I go back to my thing and I just say, my top 3 are the 240 units, take team to Mexico, and pay off the HELOC, because if all those things happen, then everything else is falling into place for me too.
Yes.
So that means I'm having fun. It means we're growing, So then I ask them, does anybody want to share their top 10 goals? And then then we talk about the banner goals, and do they want to share those? And it happens very organically. You just kind of go with the energy of the room. I mean, sometimes the energy is
like, hey, does anyone want to share their one goal? Because I imagine, you start like throwing out goals. Everyone all over the room is throwing out one goal. It might help other people say, oh, that would be a good goal to have as well, and share.
That's true.
And then it helps not so that one person is hogging all the time either.
Right. So I want to wrap this up because I don't want to make this class too long. But the next thing I do is say, awesome. I feel like we all have a good vision for what's going to make next year awesome. Now we need to figure out how. So, the tricky part in our business is that we tend to be really reactive by nature. I don't know if any of you have ever sat through a presentation where people teach about time blocking, but I know one time I went to this one and this guy put up an Excel spreadsheet of every half hour of his day, scheduled right down to like when he hugs and kisses his wife and kids, and everyone starts laughing. And I'm like, I've tried to copy that perfect day. And for me, it's just really hard to stick to. So I've simplified it to what works for me, which is putting the rocks in my schedule on a daily basis, weekly and monthly. And the first time I did this, what actually came up for me was that I was overcommitted. So if you're somebody that goes to all these networking events and classes and mastermind groups, and you lay it all out and realize that between all the running around and all these rocks in your schedule, you're not necessarily doing things effectively or efficiently. So really identifying how many of the rocks in your schedule are actually impactful. What's the return on investment of your time? And so the first time I did this, I cut a lot of quote unquote rocks from my month and replaced those with serious, focused, proactive time, like calls and notes and things like that. So I kind of go through my schedule, I go through the rocks, and then I have them work through theirs. And then again, like everybody loves the skiing part, because then I'm also putting it out there that, by the way, if you can't find me on a Friday morning, I'm probably skiing. But they all like it and they aspire to it, you know? So don't be afraid to put some fun stuff in your schedule, because you're going to be presenting your thing. So, make it personal and make it inspiring for them. The last thing I do is I say, a lot of this stuff that I share in my classes and things came from books that I've read over and over again. So I wanted to share my book list of my favorite books that I've read at least 5 times each, and why, and the value I've gotten from them. And when you complete the survey that I'm going to hand out at the end of class, I'd love for you to indicate which book you would like to receive as a gift from me, and your mailing address and your best contact information if you'd like me to follow up with you for, some accountability and to share our goals and help each other make next year amazing. And so then I put this up. It's very informal, but I go through and I talk about the EMAT and why I love that. If you're ever thinking of recruiting, or if you ever expect to succeed, you better plan to recruit. So this book's amazing for that. Power of Less for simplifying. I can share this. I think I did share this on the Freedom Club site. Okay. But anyway, I just go through it. I don't need to read it all now. I just say what they're about and why I love them. And then they do the survey, and then they indicate the book they want. And then obviously, I would have my DSP manager send those books. Also, follow up to see if they want to schedule one-on-one. But that's something that Tammy and I talked about was very interesting, is you don't want to follow up with 18 out of 23 agents that said they want you to follow up with them and schedule one-on-one with all of them if none of them are doing any production. So we're going to probably set up a group mastermind follow-up because they were inspired. So I'm going to set up a class in February where they can bring their business plans, which some of them probably have already forgotten about because we did it in November, and revisit those business plans and revisit what kind of activity are they doing and go deeper and, have a mastermind. So just kind of the amount of follow-up is limitless, because you can follow up to make sure they receive the book. You can follow up to see if they read the book. They've all read different books. So once they've read that book, do they want to read a different book? Find out what their problems are. They're picking a book based on what their bottleneck is. So they're telling you what they need help with. The survey, I use it sometimes and not always, but it just says, did you have a plan for last year? What were your banner goals? Did you achieve your goals? What would you say your number one challenge is? I had some of them do this, thinking that I could then tap into that. But honestly, realtors are still cut from the same cloth. A lot of them have the same issues. They don't stay accountable for themselves. They don't time block. They don't do their proactive. It's the same stuff we deal with.
Right.
So this is just totally changing the conversation to be speaking to them at the heart of the issue. Instead of assuming that they're up on some pedestal and we as lenders are groveling for their business, you're getting on the same level as them and you're digging deeper. And then there's just limitless follow-up that can come from that.
And you know what I love about this is that, when we're doing our frog session and getting to know them in a one-on-one situation, in a coffee shop, whatever, we always tell everyone, ask a question, shut up and listen, ask a question, shut up and listen, and make the whole thing all about them. Well, this is a way that you can have your cake and eat it too. So you make it all about them. They're forming a business plan. They're doing all of these kind of things, but you're getting to sprinkle in the things that are important to you as well by sharing what you've done on yours. And so now they're getting to know you at the same time. You're kind of getting to brag a little bit about what you do, but in a very, very non-confrontative way or push it down your throat kind of way. It's more of a heartfelt, like you said, tugging on their heartstrings kind of a feeling kind of way where they really get to know you and what you're looking to accomplish. But it's done in such a cool way that they want to be your best friend after this.
Well, and that's the key, honestly, is that I think a lot of people would go into this class format thinking, my only job here is to get these people to leave with a business plan. So I'm going to give them this 3-page thing. They're going to answer the questions and they're going to walk out with a business plan. But that would leave very little emotional response in terms of how they feel about you. It's the sharing and the vulnerability and the talking about the mistakes you've made in the past, the struggles you've had, what you would have done differently. When you start talking about that stuff, because the realtors, not one real estate agent gets their license and starts making $100,000 a year. So whether they're in their first year and they're freaking out because they just want 100% commission and they're starving but they're hungry and they're driven and they're serious, they're here in this class, so they're taking their business serious, or whether they have been in the business 10 years and are crushing it, we still have issues. They all have problems just like us. It's just like we have newbies showing up to the Freedom Club. They're getting off on the right foot, getting coaching and going full steam ahead and succeeding quickly because they're seeking out that resource with us, just like the newbie realtor. But you've also got people that join the Freedom Club after being in the business for 20 years and are sick and tired of not having any work-life balance. Well, you're going to have real estate agents like that. So you just have to speak about your own experiences, whether it's when you were broke and suffering or whether it's because you were overwhelmed and never saw your kids. Like that's going to speak to them more than anything else. And they're still going to leave with a plan that now you created for them. And now you're responsible to follow up, check in and say, send me your plan. I want to check in with you once a month and see how you're doing, and you can obviously cherry pick. There's going to be people in the room that are not sending you all their business and you want all their business. Have them send you their business plan and then tell them you're going to check in once a month and hold them accountable. It's awesome. It's so easy. So much easier.
Great. So let's talk about just 2 seconds worth, because I want to respect your time as well. Accountability. So you say that after class, you've formed a couple of little groups, like smaller accountability classes, to have a couple of the agents hold each other accountable and with the plans that they've created. So how many people do you typically have in a group?
Well, for accountability, I think the limit is 4, including you. So I had a lot of success in mastermind groups a couple years back in 2 different mastermind groups. And out of one of those, the title rep that was hosting it encouraged us to break off into accountability groups. And I quickly went over to the 3 top producers in the room and said, you guys want to be in a group together? And that's how I earned all their business, was because we started meeting once a month and we all agreed it was the most powerful meeting of our month. And that was at a time that all of us were in a place in our business where we wanted to take it to the next level. We wanted to start building teams, etc. And I'm actually having lunch with them tomorrow because we still get together a couple times a year just to kind of reflect and bounce ideas or whatever, because we've all kind of gotten to where we were trying to get. But what you need to realize that a lot of these real estate agents, they don't have anything like that. They've never even thought about bouncing ideas. And then they sit in this room and they hear you talk about your challenges and your struggles and your problems, and they're like crying because they can relate. And they don't realize that working as an island is hard. So when you get together with a small group and you meet once a month and you say, I commit to this between now and next time I see you, and everyone takes notes. And then the next time you get together, you say, did you do what you said you were going to do? And if not, why? And then you go a little deeper, like people talk about their life issues, that their dad is sick, that, they're having marital problems. I mean, all kinds of stuff come up in this little accountability group. And 100% of the time you earn their business by giving them a forum to bounce ideas. Mastermind groups and accountability groups are a little bit different. Accountability is where you actually go around the circle and say, this is what we commit to. And then next month you say, you said you were going to commit to this. And everybody gets about 15 or 20 minutes of floor time to talk and get therapy. And it's basically like a therapy session. Masterminding is a little bit different. That's when you might have up to 15 or 20 people and you can bring in speakers. You can basically gauge interest to say, would you be interested in a class like this on a monthly basis? And if people are fired up or they like the way you presented the class, they're all in. So that's what I'm planning on doing.
So
Like,
how
I'm
do
planning
you
on doing something
decide
monthly.
who's going to be in the accountability class? I mean, do you try and pair up like-minded people, people who have the same production about, or do you ever
Yeah,
have people worried
yeah,
about scarcity mindedness? Oh, I don't want to share my stuff with someone who's in my same town. How do you address any of that stuff?
yeah, 100%. So, definitely it's good to work with people that are at a similar level. And scarcity mindset is definitely going to come up as an issue. So in Denver, it's less of an issue because there's a lot of, I don't know, it's just a bigger pond, and there's a lot of masterminding and stuff like that. I find that it's much easier. So down there, we're forming what we're calling like the badass women's group. And it's a bunch of badass women realtors that have been in the business at least a year and a half to, to more, but they're all doing business and they're all extremely focused on growing their business, and like they're dialed in, they're doing the activity, they're growing, they're like, I don't know all the fish terms in the Freedom Club, but they're not whales yet, but they're like definitely on their way, and
They're
they're
big
excited
tunas,
about,
yes. Okay.
yeah, and they're super excited about this group, and committed to sharing and the whole thing. In Winter Park, because I put it out there to a lot of people, and they seem to all say that the town has a scarcity mindset, but then over 13 agents all showed up to that class. So I was like, maybe they all think that about each other, but that's not really the case. So I decided that here, I'm just going to do a monthly class, because a lot of people that missed it told me they heard about it and said it was awesome and they were bummed they missed it. So I'm going to do one big class at least every 2 months, because I didn't do one this month. Because now the reputation is there that they got value out of it. I think people will come, and that'll be more of a mastermind. And then I'm doing a smaller group one with 2 newer agents that are doing really well right out of the gate, and they're like eating up all the coaching stuff. They're definitely not whales, so, but that's my choice. Like, I really like these people, and I can see that they're growing quickly.
Yes.
And in this small town, they also spread the word a lot. So they'll be like, "Oh my God, this is so amazing. I got so many good ideas." And then they tell people. It's all good. And then I'm doing another one here that's a women's entrepreneur group. It's small. So it's accountability, but not just real estate. So there's a family photographer. It's like a high-end family photographer, because she deals with my same target market, right? People that are having babies and growing and have second homes here and all kinds of stuff. And then one realtor. And then we're probably going to invite like 1 or 2 other business-minded women into it. And all are moms in this case as well. So we talk a lot about work-life balance, but how like we want our business to be extremely successful and be awesome moms. So it's all the above.
Oh my
That's a long
gosh.
answer. There's a lot you can do.
I
There's just so
know.
much you can do.
It was amazing, amazing, amazing. Just real quick, how long did the main class, the plan itself, how long did you allow for that? Is it an hour and a half, 2 hours?
Well, it took 2 hours when I had them do the questions in advance, or sorry, when I had them do the questions in the classroom, it took 2 hours. And when it was over, realtors were like literally in line to come up and pick my brain and ask me more questions. So I ended up being there for almost 3 hours. That was when it was in the real estate office. The small group with 6 agents in Denver, it was so collaborative that it went over the 2 hours. Like, everybody was just so chatty, and it was awesome. The smaller group, just because I gave them the questions in advance, that was shorter, like maybe an hour and a half, but a lot more small talk too. Like when you're in a really small, sitting around a coffee table, you're going to be chit chatting and small talking and stuff. So I would definitely carve out 2 hours. I would set the class for 2 hours. And if people want to stay longer because they're not done or they have more questions, allow that in your schedule to be there for 3.
So carve out your afternoon basically to devote to that. And did you
Yeah,
provide
we did
any
them all in the
coffee or
morning.
food or anything like that?
Yes, we provided lunch every time.
Okay.
So it was from 10. It was from 10 to 12. Well, I think I set the first one with a big. Let me think about this. The Winter Park one, I may have said it was from 10 to 1, and we were pretty much wrapped up by 12, and then the food came in. And when we did it in the office, in the real estate office, it was from 9 to 11. And I just brought like Starbucks coffee boxes and some fruit trays or something like that, and Kind bars. And then in the smaller format, we did it from like 10 to 11:30 in a coffee shop, and we all just had a cup of coffee. That was just 3 of us. And then another time we did it in a title company, and we did it from, I want to say we did it from 11 to 1, and the title company brought in lunch. So, which was fine because everybody grabbed their box of Panera and then sat down and worked through whatever the next thing was.
Okay.
So it's totally fine to bring in lunch and make it casual. Or you could do it from 10 to 12 and just bring coffee and snacks, or 9 to 11 or whatever.
Great.
The way
So
I did it
any
up here,
last
I definitely
minute
did it up
words?
here as a lunch and learn.
Any last minute words of wisdom or
Honestly, I've always built my business on being a resource above and beyond what you get paid to do. So if you operate from this like serious intention to help them grow their business, you really can't fail. Because if their business is growing and it's as a result of help that you've provided, you're obviously going to get business as a byproduct. And when you take the component of talking about myself and asking for loans and talking about how good I am at doing loans out of it, all my fear disappears. I don't have any sales. I don't feel like I'm being salesy. I don't feel like I have call anxiety, because now when I pick up the phone, I'm calling to be like, hey, you never sent me your business plan. I really want to help you achieve your goals this year. I'm operating from this passion to help them. And it's like, it's natural and organic, and it's magnetic, and it's easy. It's way more fun. I just think it's way more fun. That's it in a nutshell. I mean, there's just so much you can do with this.
Well, gosh, Erin, it's kind of blown me away. This is awesome, awesome, awesome. I think I'm going to go and work on my little simple business plan for myself.
I know. I wish we had done the call sooner, because I don't know if it's too late. What do you think?
Oh gosh, no.
Is it
I
too
think
late
you
to try
can
to
do
get this
this
out there?
anytime. You can do this anytime, because I mean, people coming in the business in June need a plan to finish up the year with. So I don't care when you do this. There's always a time to make a plan, and it's never too late to plan. Even if you've made it through 9 months of the year and you haven't planned, you can certainly plan out what you're going to do for the last 3 months of the year, and then revamp it and do it for a whole year at a time after that. So I think it is never too late for this.
All right. Well, then the only last thing I want to throw out there is that, because I have this in the back of the book that I did a while back, and I got an email 2 days ago, no joke, from a physical therapist that I was in a BNI group with until like 2014 or something, or 15. Whenever I first used this business plan, I shared this whole thing with her back then. She just emailed me the other day and said, I just finished my 1-page business plan. I still use it every year. And she thought of me. And sometimes you have to think bigger than just real estate agents, because people like physical therapists. She's one of my top referral partners.
Yeah.
Because dentists and referral partnering physical therapists and massage therapists and hairdressers, they talk to people all day long, and they need a business plan too. So you can teach this in financial planning offices. You can teach this in law firms. You can teach this in a bank. If you're trying to get bank referrals, you can teach this in an insurance agency. You can teach this anywhere.
Your BNI group or your leads group. Oh my gosh, that would kind of touch every single business out there. This is great.
That's the thing, is like, a lot of people in our industry, we do a lot of this stuff, but there's other entrepreneurs out there that struggle just as hard as we do. And they bottleneck, and then they drop the ball, and they never hire people, and they struggle. So this is helpful for all entrepreneurs.
Well, gosh, Erin, I so appreciate this was like this was amazing. So I appreciate you taking time and your generosity and sharing what you're doing with everybody. So thank you so much. I'm sure we're going to post everything up here, guys, so you have a copy of the questions that she asks and the things that she sends out in advance and how she runs through it. And of course, you'll have the class itself here that you can go back and listen to. Some of her scripting was unbelievable. So I would highly recommend that you just listen to it 3 or 4 times so that you can really get the wording and how she says things to people, because it is so relaxing and so inviting and so heartwarming to people. So Erin, thank you so much for sharing today. I really appreciate the time that you've invested in learning this for yourself and the craft that you've created here, and then for sharing it again with us.
Of course. Thank you for everything. Thank you all.
All right. Well, we will go have yourself a great time skiing, and we will see you guys real soon. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll talk to you real soon.
All right. Bye.